Fellas, how are we doing? Happy Sunday morning. Chuck Silver, this is Chris Rooney. We're here with Occupy Fantasy. We partnered up with DraftKings this summer to bring you even higher quality best ball content. Chris, how are we doing today? What are we getting into?
Chuck, I'm excited to talk to you about some playoff week correlation today, July 20th. That's right. We are choosing to spend a beautiful Sunday here talking about best ball playoffs. What a world, what a time to be alive. But in all seriousness, this is a really important topic, and I can't stress enough how important it is to take the time to study up on some of these correlations ahead of entering some drafts and then being mindful of them while you're selecting your players, because this is really how we're going to be able to build the most powerful rosters.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about on the Stack Seeker, so we'll show that a little bit more today. We have the ADP tracker up on the screen, so make sure that you're checking this every time you start a new draft session, see who's changing in the draft streets. I mean, this week was pretty obvious. Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford are the guys that moved up, and the biggest mover down is Quinton Judkins.
Which is also not a surprise given what's going on. We talked about that a little bit in one of our previous shows. If you've missed our earlier videos, we haven't done a live stream for every video we've done. We are partnered with DraftKings to bring you this best ball content this summer, and we're really happy to be partnered with DraftKings and excited about that. We have some videos on overall strategy, how to attack the rookies this year, some of the overall ADP moves since the contest opened at the end of April after the NFL draft. Overall stacking, some draft targets. We posted those two topics a little earlier this week. Make sure that you guys check those things out because football season will be here soon. And if you're drafting early this year, like we are, DraftKings Best Ball is the move. If you've never played Best Ball before, it's simple. You draft your fantasy team, and that is it. No lineups, no waivers. Your lineup is automatically set with your best players' scores each week. And right now, DraftKings is giving all customers a can't miss offer. Draft one, get one. Enter a lineup in the $15 million best ball contest for just $20, and you'll get another best ball ticket to play for free for a share of that $15 million prize pool, giving you a second shot to take home a big hit. Download the DraftKings Fantasy app now to draft your $20 best ball lineup to play for a share of $15 million and get that second ticket to play for free. That's two chances for a huge score without ever setting your lineup again. Draft one, get one, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. And speaking of that crown, Chuck, I know we're trying to draft one of those millionaire rosters today. Tell me where your head is at since we last spoke a couple of days ago. Have you made any major changes to your approaches based off of some of the good discussions we've had, or are we still kind of going along to get along, as they say?
Major changes, I don't think so. I'm still kind of, I don't want to say just going through the motions, but I guess I'm kind of just going through the motions right now, trying some, I don't know, trying to mix up some combos maybe if I'm really overweight on some players. We've had some really good discussion about ownership and how we want to be overweight to guys, but not too overweight in our Discord. So make sure you guys check that out. But yeah, we're just going to draft a millie. We just entered. If anyone watching live wants to draft with us, it looks like there's a few spots left in the room.
Chuck, this playoff stacking is important to us because of the prize money, right? The prize money is weighted towards the end of the contest, but we have to advance out of that first round, that week 1 to 14 pool. And then we have to win a series of kind of 1 week contests, week 15 and week 16, to even have a chance at any of that prize or at the highest upside prize money. I'll put it that way. So that's, I guess, the summary for why we think playoff correlation is important. But you and I know, are looking to take it a little bit further. We're not focused on just week 17. We obviously want to focus on those other two 1 week contests that we're trying to get into, right? Week 15 and week 16.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been focusing on week 16 and week 17 mostly, and then I have the week 15. You know, if you use our stack seeker, we have the week 15 stuff right here. Maybe if you have a close decision, the week 15 can be the tiebreaker. But, everyone knows about week 17. I'm not sure as many people are focusing on week 16 as they should now. Week 17 is the most important, particularly on DraftKings, because the finals field is so big, 1,000 plus person field. You really just want to have the best possible roster you can. You're not going to get to pick which of your teams drafted gets there. So that's why we set up all of them to be prepared. But getting to the finals is so important. Just the minimum payout in the finals is pretty significant. And so I think we really want to focus on week 16 as well. And then In contests that are not the Millie, let's say the finals field is smaller, maybe 18 or 27 people, I really think you want to prioritize week 16 because if you get to the finals week with any team, you're probably going to be in good shape. But if you can prioritize week 16 to make that small finals field, I think that's the way to go.
You and I both were working on some content for this show. Obviously, we work on content for every show, and one of the things we talked about was, hey, it'd be good to have a chart of like implied team totals, game totals for the playoff weeks. And listen, we got a great community of analysts that are playing this game alongside of us, and we kind of discovered someone had already done that hard work for us. So credit given where it is due. User Big Loaf Fantasy on Twitter has put together a nice chart here that shows us each team, their playoff opponents, and then their implied team totals in at various sports books, aggregate implied team totals to kind of give you, I guess, a ranking of which teams to prioritize in those playoff weeks. I don't think we're tremendously surprised by the order here, Chuck. Obviously driven by matchup, but the teams at the top of the board here with the highest average implied team total in those playoff weeks, they tend to be the teams that we think are going to be good this year.
Yeah, and I gotta mention, I cannot get it to show properly on the screen. I'm sorry, fellas, but above Detroit here are Baltimore, Tampa Bay, San Francisco. Those are the top three in average implied team total over the three playoff weeks. This is pretty straightforward. Week 15 matchup right here, week 16, week 17, week 15 total, week 16 total, week 17 total. And so this is just the one team's side. This isn't the game total. And so we can take a look at which games we're targeting maybe more than others, but Baltimore, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Detroit, Buffalo, Washington, KC, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Rams. I'll throw Denver in there. That looks like some of the teams we want to target, although it's good to note that Denver has a much lower implied team total than the other teams around them. So that's something to keep in mind with that week 17 matchup with Kansas City.
Yeah. So just real quick, thank you. Shout out to Big Loaf. Does some content here on YouTube and is partnered with some other companies here in the industry, not partnered directly with us, but we do appreciate you putting this out there for users to consume. And hey, free reach extended by us here as well. So appreciate it, bud. You look like you got the second pick here, Chuck. And well, I don't think that first round is going to be hard for you, but maybe I could be wrong there. What are you thinking here?
I really hate getting the second pick because I don't want to take Saquon. Do you have is Saquon a snap pick here? Are you just taking him and just not
So
thinking about it anymore?
I'm probably not the best person to ask, and that's only just because I've been getting a lot of picks at the end of the draft. So yeah, I am taking him just to make sure I have shares of him. But I could see going Jefferson here if that's really where your head is at. I don't mind that.
Yeah, and talking about all these Twitter analysts, I saw a tweet, just a single tweet that said something like, "Who are these people taking Justin Jefferson at number two?" And it made me think I take Justin Jefferson at number two. But like you said, I mean, we're just gonna go ahead and take the easy pick right here in Saquon Barkley.
And Philadelphia has a really, at least for you and I, a nice slate of games in those playoff weeks. Teams that you and I are both happy to correlate with extensively. The
Yeah.
Las Vegas Raiders in week 15, the Washington Commanders in week 16, and the Buffalo Bills in week 17. Now, I am kind of an elite QB drafter as it is anyway, so I have a healthy amount of Jalen Hurts, even when I don't get Saquon. So I'm still typically trying to correlate with Philadelphia. But this is an awesome, I guess, web of correlations in my mind because it's not just Philadelphia. You've also got two other elite quarterbacks that you could correlate with if you want to go that route, and then you have a nice affordable option. I'll put it that way in Geno Smith, who you and I also like this year.
Yeah, and I mean that works out because we're higher on the Raiders than most, I think. But Washington and Buffalo both being in that top 10 of implied total. Eagles are also in the top 10. I mean, like you said, this is one of the best trio of playoff matchups for those last 3 weeks. And then, assuming we get these guys, we're going to try to get that Dallas correlation week 17 with Washington, and I'm sure we're going to end up with a Cleveland player if we get that Buffalo correlation because we're just drafting a ton of guys from one of the worst offenses in the NFL.
So pick 23 is where you're going to be when it comes back to you. So I'm not sure where that leaves us. I think I guess my first question for you, and I know that you don't typically reach for elite quarterbacks. We talked about your exposures on the last show, but assuming something weird doesn't happen here at the round 2-3 turn, you do have that week 17 correlation. I will say on my Saquon teams, I think I've taken Josh Allen at an above average rate.
Mhm.
What do you think about Josh Allen here?
I don't know. I've mentioned it before. I guess I'm just not really taking these top guys unless maybe if I have a week 17 correlation or if they fall past ADP. And so those are the times I'm really taking Josh Allen. Like I mentioned, Lamar Jackson has some cool playoff correlations, so I'll reach for him to get some unique teams. But other than him, I mean, I'm usually just waiting on QB as long as I can. Let's see though. Josh Allen here, week 17. It's a pretty sick one.
Yeah, that look. I mean, two of the best offenses in the league could be a potential Super Bowl preview. It's one of the games that I have the most exposure to this year in Week 17. So I'm already sold on it. I'll put it that way. But I usually, when I do this, I'd say I take Allen probably at the after the turn. It just depends on what you have left here for this spot here. I typically like to go with a receiver once I already have that elite running back, and kind of go with a also like a hero running back build. So what are you thinking about the receivers at this point? Not
This
really loving them.
This is the problem I run into when I take Saquon first. I do not like the receivers in the second round in this range, so I'm just going to take T. Higgins. He's the best by ADP. Another option, it's kind of cool, maybe not done as often. Maybe you've done it. Take Terry McLaurin and is he already off the board? No, take Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels back to back. I mean, you're reaching a little bit, but no
A little
one's going
bit
to have that.
right with Saquon. That's a unique combo. I haven't done it yet, but I like the idea. I might mix that in the next time I get a number 2 pick. I got no problem with going with T. Higgins. I think that's probably the best wide receiver 2 in the league, right? But also gives you the option to wait on quarterback and see if you get Burrow at the next turn if he is still there. Depending on how you want to go about this. The player that I have been taking here who has been falling and has been the discussion around the industry since our last show, Rashee Rice. What do you think about that?
It's so funny. So we recorded our previous video, if you guys watched that, the day before,
Yeah.
and I made a comment about Rashi Rice. If he was going at 14, I'd probably take him the same. I wouldn't think much of it. And then a couple hours later, we get news that he is probably going to face a suspension. So I don't know. A lot of it's he still should be around for week 17. We're going to lose some points early in the season, but I don't know how far he should fall. If it's much further than this, if his true value is mid round one. Because what's a reasonable suspension? 3 to 6 games, probably 4 games, right?
Yeah, I've taken a midpoint, I guess, of 4 games in my own stuff that I look at, and he's still maybe I'm aggressive. I still have him as the number 1 receiver on a per game basis because I think he's going to have a healthy amount of targets from Mahomes when he's available to play. So I still like taking him, dude. I'm not worried about missing him for a month, potentially a couple weeks longer than that, when we're trying to sneak him through into these playoff weeks because that's where all the prize money is in this format. I think it's just a situation where you need to be mindful of what type of fantasy football you are playing. If this is a managed league where you're setting your lineup every week, yeah, I probably would be a little leery of Rashee Rice, but best ball is a whole different animal.
Yep, yep. Well said.
So I see we went with Higgins and Marvin Harrison at the turn there. I like what you did there because there are some interesting correlations there. That's a Week 17 game between the Bengals and the Arizona Cardinals, which is, I'm sure that's why you were looking at that. And now that allows you to look at some of the correlations with both Cincinnati and Arizona in those other playoff weeks, of course, alongside the Philadelphia correlation. And some great offenses in there. Baltimore in Week 15 with Cincinnati, Miami in Week 16 with Cincinnati, Houston in Week 15 with Arizona, Atlanta in Week 16 with Arizona. So all teams that are on that upper part of that chart we looked at from Big Loaf.
So with Marvin Harrison, this has come up a couple times, but we were talking about pairing him with Jamar Chase because a lot of the majority of drafters, maybe not the majority, but the most selected player with Jamar Chase right here, I think other than T. Higgins, was Trey McBride, and then Marvin Harrison was just selected at a much lower rate than Trey McBride. And so I kind of like going for this secondary correlation with Marvin Harrison because if Marvin Harrison catches the touchdowns in week 17, that's just really strong leverage versus Trey McBride. And then I'm not sure how much this stack is done, but we're going to try to play off correlate this whole thing as much as I can. So I'm going to have to find some players I don't usually draft to do that.
So, assuming that the opportunity exists, because you got to wait here a little bit, are you interested in both Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray, just one of those quarterbacks? You and I in the past have talked about having quarterbacks from the same Week 17 game and our
Mm-hmm.
thoughts on that, but let's not assume everyone is aware of our thoughts on that. So, what's your answer there?
This one, I don't think I would. Yeah, I think their prices are a little bit too much. Like Kyler is probably slightly undervalued still, but we're paying a pretty high price for Burrow. I was gonna say if Jalen Hurts made it back to me, I might consider taking him. But I'm gonna pass on Burrow, see if this guy takes him, and then maybe if I have a
Got it.
decision. I almost took Josh Allen. That would have been the player I took if I didn't take Marvin Harrison, but I really wanted to lock up another elite wide receiver, and he is elite, I think.
Yeah, after going running back in the first round, you have to do a little bit more at receiver at the top of the board. And you and I are big fans of having 4 or 5 receivers through the first 7, 8 rounds. So totally get it. Back to you. We're passing on Burrow. Looks like we're just going to go with consensus top of the board, Xavier Worthy. And look, might sound like talking out of both sides of my mouth a little bit here, but Xavier Worthy probably does need a little bit of an upgrade if he is going to be in a situation where, for at least a few weeks, he's going to not have that competition from Rashee Rice, right? So this is a good spot for him.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna check next if he had been moving up. I don't think he should move up as much as Rashi Rice is falling, but I mean it makes sense for Xavier Worthy to catch a little bit. He's actually down 4 picks, so he's down 2 picks since last week. It's kind of interesting. I'd like to see what that changes to next week.
Uh, Worthy looked awesome at the end of the year last year for Kansas City, particularly in the playoffs. So I think that's going to continue here to begin his second season in the league with Patrick Mahomes. Uh, and you're just going to continue to go with consensus receivers at the top of the board. And look, we have said for years on this channel we like players on good teams. So I actually am pretty underweight myself on Zay Flowers this year, but I like having him on my roster for sure.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much the only time I've taken him, and it's not a super strong correlation. We only get that week 15 with Cincinnati, but I thought that was enough because my typical pick right here is I just take Ted McMillan every time, but with the playoff correlation, I wanted to do something else, and then I considered Jamison Williams, but we don't really have a strong Detroit stack here. Not that we need one to take him.
Right. I This does highlight something I've run into on my Lamar Jackson teams. I've found it actually kind of difficult to pair him with Flowers unless you take Flowers ahead of ADP because they
Yeah,
just where they fall on the board they don't really align. And I mean obviously he's the wide receiver one, but I do think Flowers is the best pass catcher to pair with Lamar Jackson. Baltimore having the highest implied team total average in those playoff weeks. I think trying to find ways to get that Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers combo into some lineups is definitely important this year. So that's just kind of wanted to put that out there because I think that's important to discuss on this show.
yeah. I want to say the only time I've done it is when I've done something like this with an early pick, like you said, take Lamar ahead of ADP, take Zay Flowers out of
Yeah.
ahead of ADP
Yeah.
because they're almost never going to fall to where you can take them naturally.
And most of your Lamar Jackson playoff stacks are going to be with Andrews and Likely or like Bateman or super late like DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Walker. So you'll be competing with a different subset of Lamar Jackson rosters if you can get Zay Flowers on that team with him. And it's not like you're reaching for a bad player, right? So these are the situations where I like doing that. I'm sure if we looked, I know that we've looked at like advanced rates for drafting players ahead of ADP, and they're not necessarily the best, but we still have to take some chances in these tournaments, right? So
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't know if I've talked about this as much as I've meant to, but ADP is really efficient in fantasy football. There's always going to be outliers. Guys are going to miss, if guys are going 34 versus 36, yeah, the 36 guy could finish above the 34 guy, but in general, ADP is very efficient. And so if nothing else, you can just take the guy at the top of the order at the position you need.
So now that we're kind of wrapping up the 6th round, and I know we're going to come up on your picks here, Chuck, so I'll try to talk through that so you can make some good decisions here. Um, Look, everybody wants great players on their best ball rosters. I think that's a pretty safe thing to say. Uh, the easiest thing, though, to build some of these correlations is to focus on some of these cost effective correlations. Some of these players that are maybe super undervalued or are just unknown commodities and go at the end of the draft boards. So, what I'd like for you to do for me after you kind of figure out what you're doing here in round 6 and 7 is talk to me a little bit about the bottom of the draft board. And are we still looking to prioritize correlating week 15, 16, and 17? And then just kind of specific to the offenses that you have here, maybe let's talk about some targets from these teams that the field isn't necessarily on at this point that we can emphasize. Okay, we have quite a bit to try to get through in the next 20 minutes here, folks. We are happy to talk about anything that you want to. So anybody that is live alongside us, we appreciate it. You have any questions, you want us to discuss something specific, this would be the time for you to drop that in the comments, and Chuck and I will do our best to address those things specifically for you. I do see you're trying to yeah, you did. You got our favorite undervalued receiver on your roster here. And in the spirit of the discussion we just had recently in Discord, I'm sure everybody will be happy to see that we are once again going to be talking about Jacoby Myers a little bit here today. And 5 receivers in a row after going with Saquon. I think this is the perfect way, if you're not going to take an elite quarterback, to prioritize building a roster here, because now throughout the rest of the contest we can focus on getting some upside at the other positions. Going to go with Aaron Jones here at running back. I like that as well. I mentioned on the previous show he's one of my targets. I think he is. Look, I get it. Aging players at the running back position are usually avoided by the field here, but I just think Aaron Jones is undervalued at ADP. So I like that selection quite a bit.
Yeah, neither of those picks had anything to do with playoff correlation. Like Jacoby Myers gave us the week 15 with Philadelphia, which is
Mm-hmm.
nice, our first round pick. Because it's, if you pass up on Terry McLaurin and we didn't get Khalil Shakir right here, it's actually kind of difficult to get this Philadelphia correlation unless you're trying to scoop bottom of the barrel, bottom of the roster players. But yeah, I mean, there were a couple other guys I think, like Brian Robinson, we could have went for here, but I just think Aaron Jones is the better option. I mean, Stephon Diggs, if he had a playoff correlation, I probably would have went with him because I'm trying to get more. But I don't think any of the. I mean, Jaden Reed would have been a good one with Green Bay to match up with my Zay Flowers for Week 17.
Yeah, I mean, we talking about finding cost-effective correlations. I think it's a little easier with these elite offenses to target players that are like wide receiver 2, RB2, maybe like an ambiguous position situation where people aren't sure what's going to happen. With Buffalo, we've had some good discussions in Discord about this. You've got Ray Davis, the backup to James Cook. He goes in the 12th round, around pick 143 right now. You've got Josh Palmer, who is kind of the consensus, I guess, wide receiver 3 by fantasy scoring and ADP in this offense, going around pick 180 in the 15th round. And then not a tremendous amount of consensus on who the next best wide receiver is behind that. We have both Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore going in the 19th round here on DraftKings. So using Buffalo as an example here, those are some of your cost-effective week 17 correlations, specifically with Saquon Barkley, if you're still looking for that Buffalo correlation after passing on Shakir and potentially passing on Coleman and Kincaid coming up.
Now we talk about like positions matter too. Of the players you just mentioned, Ray Davis is the one that I'll probably have the most of. But do we like that running back correlation for week 17? Because I wanted to ask you, why do we care about this single game correlation in the first place? Kind of building on our stacking conversation. Why does stacking work? Like, same thing. It's just one less thing we have to get right.
Yeah, it's the same reason we like stacking in a 1 week contest when we're playing daily fantasy, right? We are looking for that game to have the most upside that week, for it to maybe outperform its expectations, to have a lot of points scored, and we want our players, therefore, to have a lot of fantasy points scored in that game. Running back, kind of interesting to me. Let's just we have to assume Ray Davis would be getting a lot of touches in that game, right? So that is the first thing that we need to kind of go our way. And I understand that's not a guarantee. This is a very tough needle we're trying to thread anyway, trying to build the best roster here in this contest with everybody playing. But running back, I actually like, because I feel like you got a little bit less that needs to go right for you there. As long as both Saquon and Ray Davis are at the top of their respective teams' depth charts in week 17, I mean, lock in 15, 20, 25 touches, potentially some red zone goal line opportunities. I do think running backs have a little bit more, or a much higher touchdown expectation, like on a week to week basis, than wide receivers, right? So I actually kind of like that a lot.
Okay, nice, nice. I haven't been avoiding it, so this is an interesting one. This came up in the previous one where now Baker's only 13 picks past ADP. If he was 20 picks past ADP, it's a little bit different. But even though Baker's unstacked and we have the wide receiver one for Kyler, let's say Baker was 20 picks past ADP. I think it's okay to still take Baker there. We are going to take Kyler because it's a correlation video, but in that spot, I think it's fine. There's a couple guys we can backstack him with.
So, I mean, would you still be considering Baker here if he's still there in a couple picks? No,
No,
okay,
no.
because
That's
we
if
still
Kyler
have,
was gone.
yeah, because we still have like Kate Otten and Egbuka and Jalen McMillan. So there's definitely ways to make it fit. I know it doesn't like correlate with this roster, but to some degree, and I understand why you're bringing this up. Like, you kind of want to punish the Evans, the Godwin owners, right, by letting him slip this far, right, and not give them an easy ADP value. That's just my read on the situation. That being said, I get it. You want to build your best team and not worry about the other players too much. So I get it.
This might be the first time I've drafted this player, Evan Ingram. Need a tight end. I feel like he's a little bit too expensive, but it gives me that Denver Week 17 correlation with Kansas City, which we just saw on the chart. Denver is actually implied for one of the lowest team totals in Week 17, but that's okay.
Yeah, Ingram going here in the. This is pretty much his average ADP spot. I think in this range, uh, him and Njoku are my two favorites. I think they both have the highest upside out of this kind of whole tier between Ingram, and I'll draw the line at Jonnu Smith, I guess, for Pittsburgh. Your tight ends that are going to go in the next like 2 or 3 rounds. So even without the correlation, I'm interested in Evan Ingram here. I think he's probably going to be one of the top targets overall for Bo Nix this year. So that's a pretty solid player to be interested in here.
Yeah, and Bo Nix is a player I'd like to start drafting more of too. He goes kind of early. He already went off the board here, so we're not going to have that opportunity. But we have a couple of comments in the chat. Eagles 1985, you love the show. Thanks for doing this, dude. Thank you for being here live. It's Sunday morning. There's a lot of stuff you could be doing. We really appreciate you. And then we got I am the Kai too. Seen you before. Giants are free week 17 correlation. Any Vegas is fine. Yeah, I almost took Tyrone Tracy from your comment, but we went with Engram there. So we'll see if we can get some Giants later.
Yeah, talk about cost-effective correlations you can get. I have the most. Ask me in 4 months if this is good or bad, but the most week 17 correlation I have is Raiders and New York Giants right now. Outside of Neighbors, Tracy, and Skatibo, you're not really paying much for anything here. Wandale, I think, is probably the best one, right? You can get him in the 14th round. We're still expecting him to be the leading slot receiver there for Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, whoever is under center for the New York Giants. So, and then even behind that, Darius Slayton probably still has something to say in this offense. Free tight end and Theo Johnson. I like Devin Singletary as an undervalued running back. That's how I'm getting a lot of my correlation as well. So, right on the nose, I am the key there. Thank you for being here, sir.
Yeah, and guys, look at this. Vegas implied total week 17, 22.5 points. New York Giants implied total week 17, 20.5 or 20 points period. Now, that's a little bit less than some of the other teams here, but I have a feeling this one isn't nearly as popular of a stack. And you don't want this to be the primary thing that decides your week 17. But if you have a secondary stacks like this with Vegas and the Giants, or I don't know, the Jets and New England, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, stuff like that, just mix those in, and one of them is going to hit probably.
And so obviously, I mean, the math there, we're looking at a low 40s total game. That's why people aren't high on it. But Chuck, something that is probably worth considering. It's might seem like it's very simple here, but the Raiders are the home team that week.
Mhm.
The Raiders play in a dome. We're not going to have any weather concerns in that spot. And we're looking at the last weekend of the year, the end of December. That's when this final round is going to take place. I can't tell you where they're going to be, but we know in those outdoor venues, there's going to potentially be some problems. We let off the show talking about Philadelphia and Buffalo. Those are both outdoor cities. Buffalo is the home team that week. That could potentially be a disaster if we have a ton of exposure to that game. And here's the other interesting thing that I wanted to layer into our discussion today, also influenced by our great discussions in Discord and like what's the optimal place to land at like maximum exposure to players. Let's say the Bills and the Eagles are two of the best teams in the league this year. Not a tremendous reach to put that out there, right? Let's say that even they have super high advance rates and there's a ton of players in that final round, including ourselves, right? With this team you're building right now, with Philadelphia and Buffalo players in that final round. We almost want to have other stacks in our lineup that we can root for to go off and be optimal in that contest versus the very popular stacks, because that'll give us a better chance of having a unique lineup that reaches hopefully all the way to the top, right? So staying with that for a second, I guess to drive it home, like let's say we have a Saquon and like a mini stack here with a popular Buffalo Bill player, because that's what you're building right now. And that game is an absolute like blizzard. It's a low scoring affair. Well, all those Philadelphia and Buffalo teams in the finals aren't doing so well. And now we have a Giants and a Raiders stack playing in a perfect environment in a Allegiant Stadium there out in Vegas, and that game goes off. I think we have a better chance to win in that kind of scenario.
Yep. Yep. And this is tough. I don't know what to do here. I'm just going to take Njoku. This is not something I usually do, but I think I can just be done at tight end now, have an extra roster spot.
As long as they don't overlap on the bye weeks, I think that's probably fine.
It's an important thing to check. Yeah, weeks 12 and week 9. So I got lucky and faded that one, but I think I did need some Cleveland. Didn't I need Cleveland correlation for someone? Maybe not.
Now, even if you don't need Cleveland correlation, just because of, I mean, look, they have, I think, the worst projection in the playoff weeks, worst projection overall this year. They're going to be cheap, easy to get some players that should be seeing starters reps, and David Njoku definitely one of the better ones you can mix in the second half of contests. Let's talk
Yeah,
about.
no.
I want to stick with this theme of weather in Week 17.
Yeah.
Um, Kansas City's playing a home game on a Thursday night against Denver. Again, that could be disastrous. Detroit and Minnesota. They're both dome teams, but that's in Minnesota, so that seems like a good one to prioritize. Um, Tampa Bay at Miami. It is outdoor, but it's South Florida, so that should be okay. Uh, the Jaguars playing the Colts at Lucas Oil in Indianapolis. That should be a good one. Um, what are some of the other concern spots, though? Baltimore is going to Green Bay. Baltimore is playing at Lambeau in Week 17. So going back to the chart we showed, highest implied average team total in the playoff weeks. Baltimore Ravens, the number one team. How does Baltimore fail? Well, what if we have a blizzard in Green Bay, Wisconsin that night, right? Like that could be an issue. Um, and yeah, I think that's really it for like the concern spots. So Baltimore with the teams that we are like prioritizing: Baltimore at Green Bay in the winter, Philadelphia at Buffalo in the winter. I guess a value stack opportunity we haven't discussed, but I know we have Philadelphia, Buffalo. Obviously, we talked about as well. New England at the New York Jets could be a problem as well in the Northeast.
Nice.
So maybe
Nice.
we can put something together in our Discord for our users, or guys, just look at the Week 17 schedule. I think someone asked in the comments in one of our previous videos, can we add the like home and away qualifier on our Stack Seeker? I do think we're working on that, because that would also be an easy way for you to see that as well using our tool. So
Dude, we got a few people in chat. Really appreciate you guys. Ted, 3181, nice team so far. Thanks, dude. Appreciate that. Usually get told the other thing. Uh, Ryan H, good stuff, guys. Thanks, man. And yeah, Mr. Grapefruit, to carry on what you like. Jets are going to be key week 16 and week 17, targeting Brees Hall in as many leagues as possible at Saints week 16, Patriots week 17. What do you think about that, Chris?
Well, we talked about being okay with running back correlations. How about like a Brees Hall, Ramondre Stevenson correlation there in week 17? I know it's not going to happen on this roster, but that's one of my favorite ways to do it. If you got two guys that are going to be carrying the load for each roster, like I said, I think you have a little bit of a higher percentage chance of landing on some guys that can give you crooked numbers in fantasy that week if they're starting at their respective positions. So definitely think the Jets are look they're 30th on that average implied team total chart in week 15, 16, and 17. Right now, I do think obviously that means that they'll be a little bit easier to stack with because kind of like the Raiders and the Giants, I don't think the Patriots and the Jets is being prioritized as much by the field. So we don't want to focus on just one value correlation. We want to make sure we're getting some exposure to all of them. And yeah, that's definitely one I want to mix in more. I like that a lot.
And we went with Ray Davis, gets us Buffalo correlation. I need a couple weeks of that, and Ray Davis just is the most value heavy in that category. And then I'm going to go with Geno Smith here.
Okay.
We are going to double stack Vegas with our favorite rookie pick in the late rounds.
All right. As long as he doesn't get sniped, I appreciate where your head is at there. Now, you have Kyler and Geno. I think that there's, well, again, I like that because I think people avoid it. They both have the same bye week 8. So what are we thinking? Are we going to wait on like taking a shot late on a potential like Cleveland quarterback, or do you have somebody else in mind for a third quarterback here?
No, this is kind of the gross part of the quarterback draft, right? Like, if you
Yeah.
guys watched the previous video, you know that two of these guys are in my top five, and Anthony Richardson is number six. But uh, I don't need Aaron Rodgers or Sam Darnold here. I don't know if I need to take a shot on one of the Indianapolis guys. I mean, what would you do here, Chris? Would you just take like a Russell Wilson or a Tyler Show, or would you even? Well, we need a third quarterback because
We
of the
do
bye
because
week.
we need some points in week 8. We don't
Yeah,
want to just sacrifice 20 points. So I think in this group, well, it's not likely, but if Sam Darnold somehow made it back to me, obviously I would just take him.
yeah,
Probably Russell Wilson is who I would prioritize here. I don't think you have. I don't feel great about that Jones Richardson ambiguous situation right now. So I'm
okay,
kind of avoiding it until we get more clarity. And I think that's why they both go pretty close to each other. I think Richardson has far more upside in fantasy,
yeah,
particularly rushing. So he's the one that I want, but we're going to have to wait and see there. We don't typically want to take the two quarterbacks from the same week 17 game, especially if we don't think it has as much upside as some other matchups, but I wouldn't have a problem with having both Smith and Wilson on this team.
yeah. Because here, Wilson, and let's be honest, we're not really expecting him to contribute in a playoff week. It's more just give us 12 points in that bye week, maybe
Yeah.
contribute a couple other times.
So what if that 12 points is the difference between advancing and getting eliminated cumulatively in those first 14 weeks? So it's important. We can't just take a zero there. So we got to do something. Um, Chuck, as we kind of wrap things up here on this show, we've used it extensively, but I do just want to remind the viewers that on occupyfantasy.com, this stack seeker tool is completely free. We do offer, subscription memberships for some of our daily fantasy stuff that we put out there, but best ball content that we're doing is completely complimentary for you guys. And shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring it for us to allow us to do that for you. We have not only the stack seeker, but we have just a general ADP tracker that you can look at that is tracking the changes weekly. And then since the beginning of the contest, occupyfantasy.com is where you can find those free tools. Chuck and I both use them extensively every single time we build a roster like Chuck is doing right now. So overall theme of the show, just draft intentionally with your playoffs in mind. And I think, Chuck, we've demonstrated that. We have been focused on those playoff correlations with pretty much every single selection you have made. And I know we've deviated from it a little bit, but when you do that, I think you've demonstrated a great way to go about doing that is, you take like a David Njoku who doesn't necessarily fit with your roster, but then start looking at how can I correlate that with this roster. And so I'm sure you'll find a way to do that as we continue here. The difference between like a min cash and just advancing, and getting like that $30 and trying to get a shot at week 17 and the big prize money. That's why we're focused on these playoff correlations, because we do think if we're able to land on the right combination of players, it gives us a better chance of being successful here. So
I
draft.
don't.
Go ahead, Chuck.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
All right, I'm on a roll, and you're almost on the clock. So you want to draft some of these value stacks, especially before the field catches on and they get popular. And now that we're getting into formal training camps opening this week across the league, some of these undervalued rookie players or deeper on the depth chart players are going to start making headlines and climbing the ADP positions, right? So there's a receiver that I know Chuck wants here that pairs with the Raiders. He's already kind of risen a little bit based off of some early reporting, but if he has a big preseason, he might continue to rise.
Wait, who is it? Is it Wandale?
Well, Wandale, we need the correlation, right?
Is that who we're taking? All right, I'm just making sure that's who you're talking about.
I was talking about Dante Thornton, but I don't know if you're still saving that for later. We need Wandale for New York, so I'm totally okay with that.
Okay, I actually went with Sam Darnold at the last second because he's the one I'd be most upset about missing, because then I don't have a third quarterback. Probably should have double checked his bye week. He also has a week 8 bye week, so that's cool.
Well, listen, not ideal. We'll be honest about that, but we can take a fourth quarterback because you're only going two tight ends here. So a little bit of a goofy construction, but we can make that work. Wandale, I think with the Geno stack makes a ton of sense. And where was I? I apologize. Sorry, drafting these value players before they become popular based off of news, some of these undervalued stacks, we want to make sure that we are prioritizing those. Chuck, I don't mind having Sam Darnold on my roster. I think that's completely fine. Where are you at in terms of positions? Like, how many receivers do we have right now?
6.
Okay,
6.
so we got a couple of shots here to still correlate a little bit.
Faster.
Yeah. If this was not a live show, this is one of those you would just click the X button and say, all right, I'm starting over. I'm doing a new one.
Most unique QB room in the tourney. I am the guy. I promise you, no one else has this trio of quarterbacks. There's just no way.
How about let's look at Seattle wide receivers for a second here. This is kind of interesting. I think I'm going to make it as interesting as possible. The only ones that are really being selected meaningfully are JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba in the 3rd round, and Cooper Kupp in the 8th round. There's not really any consensus on what to do after that at the wide receiver position with Seattle. And I actually, when I get Sam Darnold on my teams, this is how I'm most likely to backstack him, is you've got Noah Fant super late at tight end. I know we said we were done there, but just to kind of put that out there as an evergreen thing, I still think he's going to be at the top of the depth chart there. We know he's been very, very productive as a tight end, but all these guys in the 19th, 20th round, rookie Elijah Arroyo goes ahead of Fant. And then at receiver, you got a couple of guys you can kind of flip a coin on, and Jake Bobo and my boy, MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, as kind of a YOLO ball specialist in this offense on the outside. I think, Chuck, with your current roster, we probably need to try to take one of those receivers, Bobo or MVS. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll go with man, that's a coin flip, isn't it?
It's a hell of a coin flip.
I'm so indifferent. MVS, I don't know. At least we've seen him catch a long touchdown.
MVS is probably who I would go with here personally. This is not a very deep wide receiver room, which kind of reinforces maybe JSN and Cooper Kupp are going to be better than we think in fantasy this year. Ken Walker as well as a running back I tend to take a lot here. So yeah, to try to salvage this a little bit, Chuck, I think we got to take one of those Seattle wide receivers, and then maybe Thornton Jr., if you can still make it work on this roster with the Raiders, if he's still there.
But we're taking Thornton.
Okay. We got to do something about
this is a disaster.
About quarterback now. Yeah.
Well, while
go ahead.
I wanted to hit this question from Voss in the chat because this is something I meant to hit on at the beginning. But what are our favorite stacks for this year? I can tell you my number one and my top two stacks are what is it? Minnesota, Detroit, and then Houston, Los Angeles Chargers for Week 17. Is that right?
Yes. My favorites, I like. Look, we've talked about it extensively on this show. Philadelphia, Buffalo, the New York Giants, and the Las Vegas Raiders are my two highest exposed ones right now, but one that is slowly climbing the ranks for me, Tampa Bay and Miami. I like both of those offenses a lot,
Nice.
and I think they're kind of undervalued by ADP right now. So that's my favorite. That's another one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's definitely one that we could be looking at, especially if the Miami guys all end up being good. Tua stays healthy.
Just
So
pulling up. Go ahead. I'm pulling up my exposures a little bit.
I say like for Week 16, Philadelphia, Washington has to be the number one stack, right?
That,
It's up there certainly.
Daniels and Hurts. How do we not like that one, right?
Yeah, it's the highest total game. Just doing the quick math here. There's no way I just did that. Oh man, dude, I auto drafted someone not good at football. Probably not even going to play a single snap. It's a disaster. Calvin Austin.
I mean, he's definitely going to play at least a single snap. I'm gonna disagree with you there. But that was not what we wanted here at
I
all.
thought
That's for
I
sure.
thought that I
All
only
right.
had one pick right there.
I'm going to
Oh
try to
man.
help you feel better about this right now. Okay. Calvin Austin does correlate with David Njoku in week 17. So there you go. You got a
All
little
right.
bit of a mini stack there. That's
All
cool.
right. We're
I
done
think
at
we probably
receiver
have
though.
to. This is a good example, I guess, of how things aren't always going to go your way, and it's why we need to be prepared going into contests, um, right? So, and I'm not saying that you're not prepared because, of course, you are, but we need to be prepared to pivot, right,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
address some of these mistakes as we make them because we're not perfect and we are going to make mistakes. I like Washington and the New York Giants in Week 15 a lot, Chuck. I like the Raiders and the Eagles in Week 15 a lot. Those are two of my highest exposed games in Week 15, and then the Jets and the Jaguars in Week 16 specifically. Cincinnati and Miami, I like that one a lot. Tampa Bay at the Carolina Panthers, I like that one a lot, and I'm a little surprised to see this one up here for me, but I get it based off of one of the teams involved. Pittsburgh and Detroit, that's pretty popular for me in Week 16 also.
Yeah, I'm getting a ton of anything with Pittsburgh. I'm gonna get a ton of, so I like that one too. Man, so how do we save this, Chris? We're gonna draft Daniel Jones probably, and just oh no, we're not. So the problem is none of these quarterbacks. We have zero confidence any of them are starting in Week 8. That's the only reason we're taking fourth quarterback is for those points specifically in Week 8. So I don't know. Maybe I just hope that I advance by more than the 12 or 14 points or whatever one of these guys would give me.
Yeah, it's not great. How do we
It's not.
save this? I'll be honest, I don't know if we can, but Joe Flacco is who I usually take here, especially if
Okay.
you're trying. So we usually when we talk about this, we're talking about who's going to be playing at the end of the year, but that's not what you're doing here. Who's going to be playing in Week 8?
Yeah.
I think Joe Flacco is going to start the season for the Browns as long as he stays healthy. You know, veteran presence, kind of the guy that these rookies in their quarterback room can learn from. Look, dude, you just got to hope that Joe Flacco is playing in Week 8 and can give you 10, 15 points. That's what I would do here. So
Yeah, we're
and
gonna take
you
Joe
got a stack
Flacco.
there, right? If you somehow luck into that being a Week 17 matchup and Joe Flacco's still under center, you got him and Njoku, you got Calvin Austin. Like we did our best to try to salvage it if we go that route. So
That would be an amazing salvage if Joe Flacco ends up being that guy. Because yeah, like you said, Calvin Austin, Joe Flacco, and Joku. Imagine those three are all on the winning team.
you imagine how angry the entire fantasy analyst community is going to be if this is the team that wins the contest.
Dude, we
That's
could
the other
start a
thing.
whole new thing if this team wins, man. What running back? I'm gonna let you make my pick here. Which running back do you want to go with?
Um, personally, in this range, Mostert's my highest exposed because
Yeah.
asymmetric upside, contingent value behind Jonty if anything happens to Jonty. So that's kind of how I usually approach this range, and it's correlation with the roster we already have. So
And so this is something I wish we touched on a little bit more last week with stacking. When is stacking too much? I think we did very briefly, but we already have two Vegas pass catchers. We have the Vegas quarterback. Can we take the Vegas running back? When they're free like this, I think it's okay to take
yeah,
to make that quad stack.
you're looking at players that are not super likely to contribute, and then in the circumstances where they do, you're probably competing with a far less rosters anyway. So I think it's okay. Um,
And I have my three running backs who are going to start: Barkley, Aaron Jones, and Javonte Williams, and that's usually where I feel pretty comfortable. So I'm going to go DJ Giddens as my last running back here.
like
And
to,
I've talked about it. I'm not high on him. I just want whoever is Jonathan Taylor's backup.
right, for the same reason that we were interested in Mostert, and like
Yeah.
let's the easiest example that still comes to mind for me is just think about last season, right? Think about the 49ers. At the end, I know they didn't have a great win-loss record results season, but they were still very valuable in fantasy football. And at the end of the season, if you had a roster that was like Brock Purdy, Jawan Jennings, George Kittle, and Isaac Garendo, like your fourth San Francisco player, those guys were contributing points to your lineups in the playoffs, right? So that's an example of why it's okay to have four Raiders here. If something like that happens, they're being productive in fantasy. Our team's doing well, so we're okay with that.
Maybe they trade off playoff weeks. Dante Thornton does his in week 15. Jacoby Myers does it in week 16. Both of them do it in week 17. And like we've talked about a little bit too, but it's not just about the game. You know, there are stacks within the game stacks, right? You know, different players. I mean, easy example: Jamar Chase versus T Higgins. Like that's a massive difference in who's going to be on your finals roster. But
When this team advances to week 17 and Sam Darnold has 3 rushing touchdowns in that game alongside like 250 plus passing yards, look, you're going to be sitting pretty. So
man, that means JSN had 250 receiving yards, though. You're gonna want him on the team. And
God,
just wanted to mention again with the playoff correlation stuff, like I've mentioned that I've made more than my fair share of finals teams. That just means I make it at higher than whatever the average rate is for the contest. And it's because we're doing this stuff. We're targeting week 15, we're targeting week 16, and then, you know, we're obviously targeting week 17, but you do have to get there. And it's really fun being in the finals. You get a week to think about winning. And then you have, you know, maybe on the first snap of the day, someone catches a touchdown that you don't have and your day's over. But for that week, it's super fun.
in a larger portfolio of teams, because you and I are both going to be drafting several teams in this contest and other contests, you're going to have teams that you finish and go, that wasn't it. That was not the one. And
This
then
one
it's
is
funny
not
how
the
that,
one.
but like, it's funny because you'll probably look at this again in December and you'll be like, oh, that team did better than I thought it would. And then the teams you thought were absolute smashes, sometimes they don't do as well as you think. So that's, I think, to try to tie a bow around this conversation, Chuck, that's why we focus on the correlation side of it, because we know we're not, just all of us collectively, we're not as good at predicting what's going to happen 4 months from now as we would like to be. But we do know that the things that are going to do well are going to go off together, because if a game is higher scoring, then that means both offenses are doing well and we want to have exposure to those. So doing my best to try to put lipstick on a pig here for you, bud. We did a great job correlating, and that's the overall lesson. Just when you're in a situation like this, continue to correlate. We don't know what's going to happen. We obviously don't feel great about some of the mistakes that were made here. I do it too. I've done it on this channel on our live shows as well. I've auto-picked and made a bunch of mistakes. I get it. But I've looked back at some of those teams and been like, oh, wow, that team advanced. And it ends up being kind of interesting. So,
Yeah, and fellas, it's okay to make mistakes. You're supposed to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. That's all that matters. You know, this was it's not a terribly high buy-in. It's a cheap mistake. So we are going to take Joe Flacco, assuming no one sniped us. Yep, got our guy. And this is one thing that's interesting to me. This happens in a lot of drafts. Let me know if it's the same for you, Chris. But you know, one running back, 5 receivers, one running back. I don't take a receiver in these middle rounds. Like Jordan Higgins, maybe Diggs. Like I'm just not taking any of these guys. Are you similar?
yeah, I typically go like on those teams specifically where I go like 4 or 5 wide receivers in a row. In the
Hmm.
middle, I've talked about like that quarterback wall. We see it there, all the red there, like
Hmm.
quarterbacks, couple of backup running backs, maybe my tight ends. That's where I start selecting them. And I'm not looking at receiver again until basically that Wandale spot that you
Okay.
took him at. So definitely on the same page there when you build a roster like this. That I think is the right way to do it.
Okay. Nice. So yeah, let's just take a quick look. We got week 17 with Cincinnati, Arizona. We have week 15 with Baltimore. With Saquon, we got the full Vegas stack. We missed out on Washington. We do have Ray Davis, so if he ends up being the
Mhm.
starting running back in week 17, we're okay there. Minnesota. Did we get Detroit? I don't think we got Detroit. It's a
No, I don't think
little
we did.
unfortunate.
With some of the auto picks that kind of took us off the path a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
okay.
Did get Dallas with Javonte Williams, and then Vegas. We got Wandale Robinson. We didn't get Houston, but we got Philly. So you're not going to get perfect. I mean, there's maybe a couple teams out of the hundreds that I'm going to draft that will have perfect correlation with the first few guys. But this is strong. We have a lot of stuff going on here, so I'm happy with this.
I would agree. It just emphasizes that it's difficult to do this 100% accurately and effectively, and that's why we've built these tools, guys, that are completely free for you, where you can use them alongside a draft. And it's tough to do when you're drafting live because I like to talked about it before. Go split screen or like dual monitor. Put like the stack seeker up on one screen, my drafts on another, and you can just really hone in, lock in, and focus on those correlations. So I know on both of our off stream drafts, that's what Chuck and I do. And that's what we definitely recommend. That's why we built the Stack Seeker tool. Draft some of these stacks before they become popular, particularly the Giants and the Raiders. Chuck and I love that one. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're going to be posting some more best ball content in August. We'll have another week's worth of videos in August. We've got a whole series of videos, 5 other videos that we've done before this live show that are on a playlist as well on the channel that we encourage you guys to check out if you haven't seen them already. And as always, Chuck and I are active in our Discord. There's a link in the description of this video to join our Discord if you're not in there already. And as we've mentioned throughout the show, we've been having some really good game theory conversations in there this week. So love the engagement with the community. Love being able to do these shows for you guys. And we're looking forward to doing some more next month as we have more information as well.
Yep, fellas, download the daily fantasy app, DraftKings daily fantasy app today. Draft your $20 best ball lineup, play for a share of $15 million. Get that second ticket to play for free for that same share of $15 million. That's 2 chances for a huge score without ever setting your lineup again. Draft one, get one. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Chuck,
Chris, thank you for joining me today, dude. This was a great one. Fellas, we appreciate anyone watching live, your comments. Let us know in the Discord how badly I messed up, any critiques, how you would have saved it maybe. But yeah, I think it was a good one.
Chuck, always a pleasure to do a show with you, bud. I'm looking forward to talking to you soon.